They smile at you with perfect charm. They speak with confidence that makes others lean in. They act as if they are the center of the universe, and somehow you are supposed to revolve around them. And here's the shocking part. Most of us let them. Most of us bend, shrink, apologize, over-explain, and even sacrifice our peace of mind just to keep a narcissist happy. But let me tell you something powerful. Being nice to a narcissist is the very fuel that keeps them in control of your life. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling drained, questioning your worth, or replaying what you should have said differently, chances are you've been entangled in the web of someone who thrives on manipulation. And this speech is your wake-up call, because today you are going to learn why kindness alone does not work with narcissists, why your politeness has been weaponized against you, and most importantly, what to do instead to take back your strength. Niceness feeds narcissists because it gives them exactly what they are looking for: compliance without consequence. When you deal with someone who operates from a narcissistic mindset, their primary goal is control, attention, and validation. They are not motivated by fairness, empathy, or mutual respect. Instead, they thrive on the energy of others, especially those who are generous with their time, emotions, and forgiveness. Every time you respond to a narcissist manipulation with more patience, more understanding, or more excuses for their behavior, you are sending a silent message that they can continue without fear of losing you. Your politeness reassures them that you will bend, that you will accommodate, and that you will not resist their control. Imagine a scenario where someone constantly criticizes you, makes cutting remarks, or dismisses your feelings. If your instinctive reaction is to smooth things over, to laugh it off, or to avoid confrontation by being agreeable, the narcissist interprets this as a green light. They learn that they can disrespect you without consequence. Instead of reflecting on their behavior, they double down, because your niceness shields them from accountability. For them, every smile you force, every apology you give, every moment you bite your tongue is proof that they still have power over you. This dynamic creates a dangerous cycle. The more nice you are, the bolder they become. The bolder they become, the more you feel pressured to keep the peace by staying agreeable. Eventually, your sense of self erodes, and you start believing that being endlessly kind is the only way to survive the relationship. In reality, all that niceness is feeding their ego while starving your self-respect. Narcissists interpret kindness not as a sign of strength, but as weakness to be exploited. To them, empathy is not a gift. It is a tool they can twist to serve their own agenda. What makes this cycle so destructive is that it convinces good-hearted people that the problem lies in them. You may start to believe that if only you were more patient, more forgiving, or more loving, then the narcissist would change. But the truth is, narcissists do not change because of kindness. They change only when their usual tactics stop working, when boundaries are enforced, or when they are faced with consequences they cannot manipulate away. Niceness alone will never achieve this because it doesn't challenge the narcissist, it comforts them. Understanding this is crucial because it helps you see that your natural desire to be nice is not the problem in itself, but misdirected niceness is. When you give it to someone who sees it as weakness, you end up drained and diminished. Narcissists do not need more of your tolerance. They need less of your compliance. They need to face the discomfort of not getting their way, the frustration of not controlling your emotions, and the reality that you will no longer hand them power disguised as politeness. Redefining kindness is one of the most powerful shifts you can make when dealing with a narcissist, because the traditional idea of being nice is what keeps you trapped in their cycle. For many people, kindness has been taught as self-sacrifice, as always giving more, as turning the other cheek no matter how many times someone disrespects you. While that may seem noble in everyday relationships where there is mutual respect, In a relationship with a narcissist, it becomes a dangerous pattern that erodes your sense of self. Narcissists are not moved by generosity or by endless patience. They are emboldened by it. They see niceness without limits as an invitation to push boundaries further. That is why kindness has to be redefined. It cannot mean tolerating bad behavior. It cannot mean giving up your needs for the comfort of someone who exploits them. Real kindness is not about pleasing others at the cost of your own peace. It is about acting with integrity while still respecting yourself. This means you can still be polite, but not passive. You can still be compassionate, but not compliant. You can still be understanding, but not to the point where you allow yourself to be harmed. For example, telling someone no firmly is not cruel. It is an act of kindness to yourself, and it can even be an act of kindness to them because it forces a healthier dynamic. A clear boundary set with calm confidence is far kinder in the long run than pretending you are fine while silently suffering. The mistake many empathetic people make is believing that love means endless forgiveness, or that compassion means never challenging bad behavior. But when you refuse to set boundaries, you are not practicing kindness, you are enabling abuse. True compassion sometimes means saying, I will not allow this anymore. True love sometimes means walking away from someone who refuses to respect you. True kindness is balanced. It recognizes that your needs matter just as much as anyone else's. When you redefine kindness in this way, you stop being the perfect target for manipulation. A narcissist expects you to keep smiling, keep explaining, and keep absorbing their negativity without resistance. But when your kindness comes with limits, they lose their leverage. They realize that they can no longer count on your fear of conflict or your desire to avoid tension. You may still be polite, but you are no longer controllable. You may still be considerate, but you are no longer their supply. This new version of kindness is not about changing who you are at the core. It is about strengthening it. It allows you to remain empathetic without being exploited. It allows you to remain generous without being drained. It allows you to care about others without neglecting yourself. That balance is where your true power lies, because it ensures that kindness is no longer a weapon used against you, but a force that protects and empowers you. Setting boundaries without apology is one of the most effective ways to disarm a narcissist because it denies them the endless explanations and justifications they crave. Narcissists thrive on drawing you into long conversations where you feel compelled to explain why you are saying no or why you are uncomfortable. The more you explain, the more material they have to twist, manipulate, and use against you. That is why boundaries must be simple, direct, and unapologetic. A clear statement like, I'm not available for this conversation right now, is far more powerful than a long explanation about why you're tired, busy, or upset. The moment you add extra details, you are giving them threads to pull on, and they will always find a way to unravel them. Boundaries are not about changing the narcissist's behavior. They will not suddenly respect you or start treating you better simply because you have drawn a line. Instead, boundaries are about protecting yourself. They are reminders that you control your time, your energy, and your emotions. When you say no without apology, you are reclaiming your right to decide what you will and will not accept in your life. This is especially important with narcissists because they are skilled at pushing guilt onto you. They want you to feel selfish for putting yourself first, unkind for walking away, or ungrateful for refusing their demands. If you give in to that guilt, your boundaries collapse and you are right back in the cycle of being manipulated. Many people struggle with boundaries because they confuse them with being rude or harsh. But a boundary is not an attack. It is not about hurting someone else. It is about protecting your inner peace. Saying, I will not discuss this topic, is not cruel, it is clear. Walking out of a room when someone raises their voice is not disrespectful. It is self-respect. The narcissist will try to convince you otherwise, but their reaction is not the truth. Their resistance is only proof that the boundary is necessary. The key is consistency. Setting a boundary once and then backing down when they test it only teaches them that your words are flexible. A narcissist will always push back at first because they are used to you giving in. That initial resistance can feel overwhelming, but the more consistent you are, the stronger you become. Over time, you will see that boundaries are not about controlling the narcissist. They are about controlling the space around you. Another important part of setting boundaries without apology is learning to be comfortable with silence. Narcissists hate when you do not explain yourself because silence denies them ammunition. If they challenge you and you simply repeat your boundary or walk away, you take away their ability to manipulate the conversation. It feels uncomfortable at first because you are breaking a lifelong habit of over-explaining. But that discomfort is the sign that you are finally stepping into your power. Boundaries without apology are the language narcissists cannot control. And when you master that language, you reclaim your voice. Detaching from a narcissist's reactions is one of the hardest yet most liberating skills you can develop, because their entire strategy relies on hooking you emotionally. Every outburst, every guilt trip, every cold silence is designed to provoke you into giving them attention, energy, and control. When you respond with panic, over-explaining, or desperate attempts to calm them down, you are handing them exactly what they want. Proof that they can still dictate your emotional state. The cycle only ends when you learn to separate their reactions from your sense of responsibility. Their anger is theirs to carry, not yours to fix. Their sulking is theirs to process, not yours to soothe. Their tears may look convincing, but they are often strategic, intended to pull you back into compliance. The trap lies in believing that if you just explain yourself better, love them harder, or try to make them understand, things will improve. But narcissists are not looking for understanding. They are looking for submission. They twist every explanation into an opening for more control. That is why detachment is essential. It is the recognition that their emotional storms are not your responsibility to weather. Emotion is not tolerated. You don't need to attend every argument they start. You don't need to justify your choices every time they disapprove. You don't need to chase after them when they withdraw affection as a form of punishment. Detachment is not coldness, nor is it cruelty. It is clarity. It is the ability to observe their behavior without internalizing it. Imagine their anger as thunder in the distance. It may be loud, it may rumble, but it does not have to enter your home unless you open the door. When you stop reacting, you strip away their power. Their shouting loses its impact when you remain calm. Their silent treatment loses its sting when you go about your life undisturbed. Their guilt trips fall flat when you refuse to pick up the burden they are trying to hand you. Of course, detaching requires practice because narcissists are skilled at pushing emotional buttons. They know exactly which words make you feel guilty, which expressions make you feel obligated, and which silences make you feel desperate to repair the situation. To break this pattern, you must remind yourself constantly that your worth is not tied to their approval. Their mood does not define your value. Their displeasure is not a verdict on who you are. Detachment is also about choosing where your focus goes. Instead of pouring all your energy into managing their reactions, you redirect that energy into your own growth and peace. You learn to find stability within yourself rather than in their shifting approval. You learn to stay grounded even when they try to pull you into chaos. The moment you stop reacting to their every move, You take back control of your emotional life. You no longer live in response to them, you live in alignment with yourself. Stopping arguments with a narcissist is a form of self-preservation because the very structure of their communication is designed to trap you, not to resolve anything. Narcissists do not enter arguments to seek truth, compromise, or understanding. They argue to dominate, to confuse, and to drain you of your energy. They will twist your words, deny things they said, bring up unrelated issues, and attack your character all in one conversation. The goal is not clarity, but chaos, because as long as you are defending yourself, you are not holding them accountable. When you realize this, you stop expecting arguments with them to ever be productive. It is natural to want to defend yourself when accused of something untrue, or to try to clarify your point when misrepresented. But with a narcissist, each clarification only creates another opening for them to distort your words. They feed off your emotional reactions, and every time you raise your voice, cry, or desperately try to explain, they feel victorious. This is why disengagement is more powerful than the most carefully crafted defense. Phrases like, "we see this differently," or "you're entitled to your opinion," close the door without giving them new material to manipulate. When you state calmly that the conversation is over and then remove yourself from it, you break the pattern they rely on. The difficulty is in resisting the urge to have the last word. Narcissists know how to bait you with insults, accusations, or deliberate lies that make you want to jump back in and correct them. They rely on this reflex. The real strength is in choosing silence, walking away, or repeating your boundary without variation. To them, it feels like a loss because the argument no longer serves its purpose. They cannot get the emotional payoff they were seeking. To you, it feels like freedom because you are no longer wasting hours, sometimes days, in endless circular fights that go nowhere. It is important to remember that refusing to argue does not mean you're conceding or that you are weak. In fact, it shows more strength than getting pulled into their games. Narcissists thrive on control, and if you deny them the chance to control your emotions, you are already winning. The argument cannot exist without your participation. If one person refuses to engage, the cycle dies. They may escalate temporarily, trying harder to provoke you, but your calm disengagement will ultimately expose their tactics for what they are. By learning not to argue, you shift the power dynamic. You teach yourself that you do not owe them endless explanations. You reinforce the truth that your reality does not need their validation. Most importantly, you protect your peace. The time and energy that would have been wasted in circular debates can instead be invested in your healing, your passions, and your future. Refusing to argue is not about silencing yourself. It is about refusing to let someone else dictate how much of your life you will waste on battles that were never meant to be won. Reclaiming your identity after dealing with a narcissist is both an act of courage and an essential step toward healing, because one of the most damaging effects of narcissistic relationships is how they slowly erode who you are. At the beginning, you may not even notice it happening. You compromise a little here, silence yourself a little there, all in the name of keeping the peace or holding on to their approval. Over time, those small sacrifices pile up until you barely recognize yourself. The dreams you once had, the hobbies you once enjoyed, the confidence you once carried, all of it gets buried under the constant effort of trying to avoid conflict and keep them satisfied. This erosion of self is not accidental, it is part of their strategy. Narcissists want you so focused on them that you forget your own worth, making it easier for them to control you. Reclaiming your identity begins with remembering who you were before the manipulation took hold. Ask yourself what made you feel alive, what values mattered most to you, and what goals you once pursued. Perhaps you used to love painting, writing, or traveling, but those passions faded as you devoted all your energy to managing the narcissist moods. Perhaps you once dreamed of advancing your career or starting a new project, but their constant criticism made you feel incapable. Rediscovering these parts of yourself is like watering seeds that have been neglected for too long. They are still there, waiting for your attention. Another part of reclaiming your identity is rebuilding your confidence. Narcissists thrive on making you doubt yourself. They use gaslighting to make you question your memory, your judgment, and even your sanity. They criticize you in ways that chip away at your self-esteem until you begin to second-guess every choice. To counter this, you need to start celebrating small wins and acknowledging your strengths again. Keep a journal of moments when you stood your ground, when you made a decision for yourself, or when you rediscovered something that brings you joy. Over time, these reminders create a foundation of self-trust, showing you that you are capable and resilient despite what you were led to believe. Reclaiming your identity also means surrounding yourself with people who see you clearly and value you without conditions. Narcissists isolate their targets, convincing them that no one else could understand them or care for them the way they do. Breaking free from that lie requires intentionally building a support system of friends, family, mentors, or communities who uplift you. When you are around people who celebrate your growth instead of diminishing it, you begin to reconnect with the truth of who you are. Most importantly, reclaiming your identity requires giving yourself permission to prioritize your own life again. It means saying yes to your dreams, yes to your needs, and yes to your future without feeling guilty for no longer centering the narcissist. Your identity is not meant to be defined by someone else's approval. It is meant to shine in its own right, independent, strong, and whole. The next time you feel the pull to be nice to someone who has shown you nothing but manipulation, pause. Ask yourself, am I being kind or am I being controlled? Am I protecting peace or am I avoiding conflict at the cost of my soul? Then choose differently. Choose truth. Choose boundaries. Choose you. Because you deserve more than survival. You deserve freedom, clarity, joy, and authentic connection. And that will never come from feeding a narcissist's ego. It will only come when you stop being nice to them and start being true to yourself instead.